the latest episode of the Kansas Moonshot Podcast, where we are shining the spotlight on amazing things happening in schools across the state. Whether you're launching some amazing redesign plans or a teacher trying to do something a little different, I want to share your story. The goal is to celebrate the awesomeness all around us. In this episode, I have Ashford Collins on to share about him, along with several other teachers and community members have come together to create the Hope Walk with the entire purpose of uniting love through hope. Check it out. So, I have an amazing guest with me today. Why don't you start off by introducing yourself?
All right, my name is Ashford Collins. I'm currently the assistant principal at Oxford Middle School. And before that, I was an administrative intern at Blue Valley High. And before that, I was a sixth grade language arts teacher for 6 years at the Olathe School District at Santa Fe Trail Middle School, originally from the Southeast.
Excellent. And so the reason why I brought you on is because, is this the fifth year of the Hope Walk?
This is the fifth year.
Okay.
Fifth year of the Hope Walk.
Fifth year of the Hope Walk. So let's start at the beginning. What were the origins of the Hope Walk?
Yeah, so I appreciate you asking that. I think that is my favorite question. The root of anything. We've been talking a lot about roots, like where did things start? How did they begin? What's the intentionality behind it? This started the summer of 2015, and I think if we all kind of venture back there a little bit, that was a summer where there was a lot of uproar, very similar to this wave of uproar right now with a lot of social and racial injustice, and some of those unjust killings that summer were Philando Castile, Eric Garner, Sandra Bland. And I remember just, being in this place where I was just very stirred up inside. Social media was stirred up. Conversations between family and friends were stirred up. And I got to the point to where I was just like, I saw different protests happening in different places, but those places were constantly where there was a heavy concentration of where Black people or people of color were activated. And they were in more urban communities. And I felt like there was just that sent a message enough to me of just like, I live in the suburbs with my family and where I work. So I'm just like, I have this same pain, this same frustrations, and I'm sure a lot of other people do, that I'm seeing these other protests and these other people speaking out are happening at. And so I began to just think about, what is it that we can do in this community here? Because I felt like the suburbs and other areas that maybe don't see this as much, we just get way too comfortable. And we get to the point to where we feel like we don't have to do anything or to act on anything or to bring attention to these things. So I began to just kind of stir up and began to talk to my wife about, what is something that we could do effectively here in our community to bring attention, to educate on issues, social issues like this. And so that's what kind of got the social justice part started. But then the mental health part, because that year where I was teaching, there had been quite a few students that had taken their own life because of their own mental health struggles. And so I also wanted to intervene in that because I feel like all of this is just interwoven and connected. And so I also wanted to be intentional about something to do with resources or educating people on, what they could do if they have a friend or themselves that's struggling with mental health. And then the community relations piece was just kind of coming down to, one of the interventions that has been heavily talked about is just community policing. And not saying that just community relations is just about, your police department, because it's not. However, they're a strong piece of that. And so I felt like having a community relations part would really just be about how can we use this event to connect our community and things going on here? And how can we use this event to not just connect our community, but to connect our community to other communities as well? Because I feel like often, you talk about, well, I live here, and so this is what we do here. But I think, if we just see that we're all in this human rights picture together here, this is going to kind of help paint that picture a little bit. So that's kind of where the three pillars came in with social justice, mental health, and community relations. And our motto kind of became United Love Through Hope. And I know that kind of sounds very vague, but to me, it was a sense of there are a lot of different things that separate us, whether it be our religion or our race or ethnicity or what we believe about education, whatever it might, our language. But I thought, to me, like this event right here, the one thing that brought us together was this love and this hope for something better. So that's where the whole united love through hope. So we're united at this hope walk through love. But the one thing that's all bringing us together is we all hope for something better than where we are right now. We all do. I don't care what your specific beliefs are about this and that, but the one thing that we all hope for is something better.
And I think that hope piece also comes into we're hopeful and believe that there is a possibility of change, which is really important. One thing that I also like about this, you talked about the connections between people, going off on a little bit of a tangent here. I love that there are so many students involved and about how many schools are being interconnected now because they're seeing each other at this Hope Walk. I know Blue Valley's brought a few kids. Last year, Olathe North had a few kids there. And I think that the students is what inspires me the most, is having those kids there and seeing them leading the charge in so many different ways.
Yeah, that is something that, and it's the most exhilarating part for me too. And it's sometimes the most challenging because you're over summer trying to communicate with kids. And so usually you're like probably going through a staff member that's an advocate and trying to third-hand information kind of thing. I've been impressed every single year that the students have came, and they've always done a great job because unlike a lot of us adults, students, they know how to they know how to wait till the last minute to kind of like say like, oh yeah, this is what we're gonna do, this is what we're gonna share and all that. But I mean, the reality of it is like the Hope Walk is a community event, and dare I say it's more of a student event because at any point in time, any of those students are just like, hey, we would love to take over the Hope Walk and do this and do that. I will say that I'll be completely okay with that because I feel like, they're not just kids. They're not just the leaders of tomorrow. They're the leaders of today. And I think that doesn't get said enough. But, this year we plan on students from the Black Student Union at Blue Valley Northwest, students from Olathe North coming in there, possibly some students from Oxford Middle School just coming to share as well, and a student that's part of the Zero Reasons Why Council coming to kind of share about that. And so, they are kind of the catalyst of all this. So it only makes sense that they're the face of it.
So we're in a unique time right now. We've had to make some adjustments. I know we've changed the date a couple of times. We've had to shuffle things around just because of different issues as far as like how many people can gather together at certain times and stuff. So what safeguards have we put in place? What are some things that who have you met with to make sure that we're meeting all the guidelines and make sure we're doing this the way it's supposed to be done?
Yeah, it's a great question.
Or the way we best can guess it should be done.
Right. Well, your guess is as good as mine, so let's start with that. In addition to that, I've really leaned into our Olathe, city officials, and just to make sure that we're on the same page and just to make sure that we're providing a space for everyone's comfort there, because the reality that we have to face is everybody has a different level of comfort right now with a lot of this. However, we wanted to provide as much differentiation to that comfort as possible, which in a lot of ways, the Hope Walk has kind of lends itself to that in the past anyway, because it's an outdoor event. You can get as spread out as you want to with where we're going to be. So that helps a lot. But some more intentional steps outside of just talking to our city officials have been Versano. They have provided the protective equipment to us this year. So they provided about 2,000 masks to us, just to make sure that, we have the measures there for people to have a mask while they're there. So we really want to appreciate them. We want to thank them at the event more intentionally there tomorrow. We're going to give them an opportunity to kind of speak on what they do. In addition to that, we are going to be providing, different ways to video the event and Facebook Live the event. So people that, may want to be a part of that, they can take some different measures as to how they can participate with that. In addition to how we go about the walk, we're actually going to be starting our walk in shifts. Prior to like last year, we just all left in kind of one group. And we kind of naturally got split up a little bit anyway. So like I said, like in a lot of ways, it'll probably still look somewhat similar. But this year we have about 7 groups, including Mr. Stock, as far as our Hope Walk team. And so this year, as we dismiss, we're each going to take a different group to kind of break up the big group kind of feel a little bit more. And I mean, they'll still be like clusters and whatnot, but it won't just be this big, huge group just walking together. They'll be kind of broken up into like 7 or 8 different big groups so that we're a little bit more aware and a little bit more conscious of the social distancing and avoiding the huge crowd all clustered together. And so we think that just may be one intentional step to help with some of the spacing and the comfort level of some people there. Like I said, not perfect, but just trying to make sure that we're providing the safe and responsible steps for everyone that will be in attendance there or people that won't be in attendance there.
So if there are other schools throughout the state who are thinking, you know what, this is really important to me. I love this idea. That might be something to keep in mind. You know, reach out to your city officials, make sure that you are organizing with them, make sure you're meeting all their guidelines, and hopefully they're as supportive as Olathe was, because Olathe has been pretty supportive of us throughout this process.
Yeah.
Any other tips or suggestions if someone's like, you know, I love this idea, I want to organize something in my own town, or I want to organize something in my own area? Do you have any suggestions for how to go about getting started?
Yeah, you know, I think it goes back to your first question. You got to make sure that you're passionate about your purpose,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what's going to carry you through. If you're just doing it just because you may really love the idea of what's going on with something, but we all know, especially being in education, you might really like what that teacher's doing or what that classroom's doing, but there's a lot of purpose and passion behind how they got there. And so whatever, you know, other person or youngster or community wants to kind of start something like this, just make sure whatever your purpose is, that you're passionate about that, because that's what's going to drive this. I mean, because there's even a couple of times, you know, this year that I was just like, you know, like, I love this event, but I'm not sure everyone has the same passion for it. And it's not about numbers, but I had to keep telling myself, no matter how many numbers show up or who shows up, I know that I'm passionate about it, and I know that other people share that same purpose and passion as well. So you got to be willing to understand what your values are and hold tight to them no matter what turnout you get. Because the reality of it is like, if your goal is to get 150 people, that's great. But what if you get 150 people that year, and then next year you get 130 people? Is that a bad thing? Because now you're constantly assessing how you're doing just based off of numbers. So I would just be careful of that. But I would say number two, outside of just making sure that you're passionate about your purpose, is making sure that you have the right people around you to, number one, support you, but also challenge you. And I do think there's a difference between the two, because you want genuine people that are part of your team that are about that purpose and that have different things to add to it. But to also, like, you know, like Mr. Stock, you know, he joined us this year, and I know how he thinks, I know his mind, I know how he kind of goes about things, but one of my favorite things that we doing in the Hope Walk this year is that it's a small tweak, but so impactful. Is one of the first things he said at our first meeting was, is it possible that each of the people that are speaking can share one intentional action step through that? And I'm just like, that's a great idea. You know, like, it's great to have people come up there and just share about, you know, this is what they do and this is how they impact mental health or social justice, and to talk about their initiatives. But to tell people, here's one action step, here's one way you can help us with this, here's one thing you can get involved with, I think that's beautiful. And so I think having a team around you is something that, is essential for a lot of different reasons there. So I would say passionate about your purpose, and, you know, just having a team around you that's genuinely supportive and challenging what you're doing.
And I think having those three pillars has helped. When you've got that team, you can frame everything connected to that. Does this fit in with our three pillars? If it doesn't, that's a great idea. That may be another initiative or event, but it doesn't really fit in with this event. And so right. I think that's been helpful too, to always be able to go back and say, okay, does this align with one of the three? Okay, perfect. That'll fit in perfectly. Oh, that one doesn't quite fit. Let's either tweak the idea or maybe try to find another avenue to deliver that.
Right. Now, I love that, because those three pillars, you know, they kind of hold us accountable, you know, to some degree, but they also have enough broadness because of all three of them to where, like, we can also make some stuff fit too if it's just like really good and really impactful. So it kind of gives us a lot of flexibility within that. So no, I love that you brought that point up.
All right. And I will make sure to have your contact information in the show notes so that people can reach out to you if they're like, oh, this is a great idea, I'd love more information. But if you want to just do a quick plug, where can people find you if they wanted to message you, like on Twitter or anything like that?
Yeah. So as far as Twitter and Instagram goes, if you go type in @Heart4Youth, heart as in just the way you spell heart, but 4 is the actual number 4, and then youth, not you, but youth. Then on Facebook, it's just Ashford Collins. You can find me there as well, and that's where you can obviously get plugged in. As far as finding the event page for the Hope Walk, it's 5th Annual Hope Walk 2020. So you'll be able to find the event from there. I'd like to, you know, there is a flyer kind of floating around, but I think that page on Facebook is probably where it's most detailed and kept up as far as like speakers and whatnot. And so that's probably the best means as far as social media goes to get a hold of me. There's an email that you like to send. A as in apple, D as in dog, collinsjohnson@gmail.com. And I always think like, well, they always told us to not do emails with your full name in it. And that's exactly what I have. So you should be able to find me there.
All right. Well, thank you very much for being on the show. I look forward to the Hope Walk. The Hope Walk is on Saturday, July 11th at 9 a.m.
9 a.m. Yep.
So if anybody's listening to this before then, join us. If not, check the Facebook page because there will be a lot of pictures. I'm just giving you an idea of what the Hope Walk was like. And hopefully there'll be some videos there. I'm planning on walking around, getting some interviews with some people just to get a little bit of background of why they came to the Hope Walk. So there will be more information, more about the event after the event is finished. So make sure you check that out as well. So thanks for being here.
Stock. Thank you.
For more information about this episode, check out my website, MrStockRocks.com. If you know someone doing something amazing in their classroom, let me know about it. I'd love to have them on the show. You can email me at teachlikeaninja@gmail.com or follow me on Twitter @teachlikeaninja. I've been your host, Josh Stock, 6th grade English teacher and author of the new book, Awesome Sauce, Create Videos to Inspire Students, Engage Parents, and Save You Time. Until next time, book it forward and be awesome.